He had to say this maybe less than a handful of times to us. Make no mistake, we're learning how to hurt people.
Distractions on the draw, flicking things in people's faces, you flick the cigarette, draw the knife.
And this is Sonny question. Can you pull the trigger? Can you take somebody out? Can you?
Hey everyone, welcome back to the VSCK podcast. My name is Gregory Manalo. We're here with Renato Alfonso and Jason Santucci, and we're here to celebrate the life and art of Sonny Umpad. And today we're hopefully going to try to cover the topic of VSCK itself and the art and what Sonny hoped to put out there in the world. And the benefit is that we have first gen with Renato, second gen with Jason, and then third gen with me. And so I think the topic is really VSCK and its evolution from first gen to third gen. And I think maybe a good place to start is really just describing what the differences are, and then maybe we can go from there. So yeah, take it away, my elders.
That'd be you.
Intent wise,
well, what was it? What did it look like actually initially? Because from my perspective and looking at old tapes and like material and the curriculum, to me it was like Coroto and short stick based and some knives, but beyond that, I don't really know.
Yeah, I think by the time I got there, he was transitioning more to the Largo portion of it. Okay. And because all the other stuff had already been built into his curriculum, right? He's moving away from that with all the different people coming into play. I think the time that I got there, the inside role wasn't in the picture yet. And all these Wing Chun people were coming in, and that kind of influenced his stuff going forward. So he was transitioning. He's always moving, right? He's always transitioning, picking up this, picking up that. And he's one of those people that can look at something and reproduce it because of his prowess, right? I can't think of the word, right? But he could look at somebody doing something and go, "Oh, I get that," and then he could probably sometimes do it better than the guy that was doing it,
right?
Just because of his ability, right? So he was that gifted that way, and he can flow with somebody and pretty much reproduce what the other person is doing. So. And his eyes were really good because he can, like, how the old way was you send your fighter out, right? And they do battles that he's watching what the guy's weaknesses are. That's how it went. Actually, that's he was the fighter in the Alameda one. He was their fighter. Sonny was the guy that they send out to go duel with the people, the other schools.
Wait, what do you mean? He was the so he would go fight these other schools, or he would fight random thugs?
No, well, people that would come in and challenge.
Oh, stuff, I see. Right? He was like the sergeant at arms of sorts.
He was the one that sent out. I think that's how he lost his front teeth. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's what I understood as well.
I thought that was in the Philippines. It was here.
This is not, well, this is what we got to ask the other guys, right? But this is the way I understood, right?
I see.
I might have been in the Philippines, but the fact is that's the guy, Sonny was the guy that they sent out to figure out what the other guys can and cannot do, right? So he was their sergeant of arms, if you will.
Got it.
So anyway, so that was a nice thing to remember, but that's how he got good. In fact, a lot of the old masters were all fighters on the street.
Right.
That's how they had to try them out and stuff, right? So anyway, so that was how did I get there?
Well, right. In your perspective.
Yeah, so we were just talking about the curriculum.
Right. Well, you were talking about
right? And a lot of his art was trying to figure out what works and doesn't work. That's really what I was trying to get to. Mm-hmm. He learned from something, and I think that's when he started hitting up more. And this is my opinion, by the way.
Okay. Yeah.
Everybody kind of worked from the top, and then his stuff from the more would start coming up, like hitting up, right? Mm-hmm. And this is my belief, right? Because that's what he was showing me at the time.
Okay.
Right. So and so that's that was my limited stuff. I was in and out of people by that time. Jason's he was also very dark in those days.
Well, okay, so you're saying that at least optically, or at least from what I know, is that early stuff was in the curriculum that was mostly Corto and knife based, but when you were there, most of that curriculum was getting phased out, and you started entering a largo mano phase and upward striking kind of phase.
This is my experience with him, right? I mean, he might have been doing like Jason was saying. Each student had a direction, their own journey, and Sonny would just, everybody calls it, he's just adding it up, right? He's just adding up what they can do, what personality wise, also like direction. But he was always not. He was also by that time he was against all the dark stuff.
Yep.
By that, right? He was already because he's been there, done that. He was kind of done with that, so he was on his way to looking for a way to. You guys see that? I went like that.
Yep.
Yeah, like a river. Like a river. Flow. That's the flow-based system. That might be the new symbol right there.
He was transitioning to a softer part of it, right?
Right.
But he was very dark. With Jason as well, it was a lot of a lot of stuff. He was going through his, leaving his family, his divorce, family, and he gave up his family for his art. This is the hardest thing for anybody to do. He gave up his family for his art, right? And I think there was a story where he was playing around. I think it was a Bali song also, but anyways, he'd playing with it. A knife flew. I don't know if it was a Bali song, but it was a knife. And I think I got to ask Jackie if that happened. Did you hear that, Jason?
Yeah.
And it hit Jackie. I think it was Jackie that got hit with a knife or got hurt. And that's when he took out all his weapons from the wall and did his stuff. Do you remember that, Jason?
Yeah. No, I remember. I think Jackie told us that at I think a barbecue at your house.
Yeah, I vaguely remember the story. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was a point where he had to decide, family stuff. And anyway, so that's not an easy call to look at your art and your family. And I think Jackie and them were still in the teens that were growing up, Brian and stuff. So I thought that was always a hard call to make and sacrifice your family for your art. That's the way I looked at it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be that good, you have to be almost obsessive to want to be thinking about it, live it, constantly. I mean, only the best really are kind of like that, where they're so obsessive to excel.
I don't know. It was so much. We had a common friend, Skip Ellsworth. He's gone now. He's in the Philippines. And this was Skip Ellsworth was one of the eight with Bruce Lee students, right? Jesse Glover, Skip was there. There was 8 of them, but Skip Ellsworth and I became friends, and he lived in the Philippines. And he was he wrote to me one time, Sonny's really lucky, right? That he lived the life that he wanted to live, right? And nobody can say that I lived the life that I wanted to live. So in a lot of ways, Sonny was very lucky, and Skip understood that. Sometimes we live our life because we have responsibilities, this, that, but he actually sacrificed up to live the life that he wanted. So from our point of view, from Skip's point of view, he lived the life exactly the way he wanted to do it, which is doing his art, doing his music, his craftsmanship, and all that stuff. So anyways, I got
sidetracked. Yeah, no. What I think is interesting is that how you frame your relationship with Sonny, not necessarily as a student, but as a friend. But sure enough, you were a student.
I am. I still am.
Absolutely.
I'm given the opportunity to share. Sir has asked me to share, and I'm learning a lot of things that I did not see back when Sonny was sharing that with me. Of course. And things that I wasn't mature enough to see in terms of either application, especially with application, because all you see was Sonny doing his stuff, and you try to do the broad movement of it. But in terms of application, a lot of the applications were sort of taken away. I think that's what Jason was alluding to. You have all these movements that are coming in, but in terms of application, that kind of was put aside for different times, right?
Gotcha.
And Jason, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Sorry. Well, so this wasn't flow based yet, right? This was more so just technique, kind of like this is I'll show you this, and this is how you respond to that, or how would you describe what he showed you?
Well, I think he was leading into that because at the time he just came out with the frustrator.
Right. Yes.
That obviously, so and see that brought something a lot back to you, Greg, right? That became like this is a huge connection for all of us.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, so that just frustrator came out, and my interest in the frustrator was how he freaking built it.
Mm-hmm.
The craftsmanship that allowed you to come up with a spindle, a rubber band that holds it going up and down, a weight on the bottom that swings it. That you kick that, and all these things are moving, right? That's genius to me. That's the toy.
Absolutely.
And so that was the beginning. So he was coming out of those things in terms of random stuff. Mm-hmm. This is the random stuff that comes in. He was already going into that. That was the end of my time. So I went like that again. But he had all the other applications, and then that's where Jason comes in.
Interesting. Okay.
Jason had different things that was happening. His needs were different in terms of application stuff. So to answer your question, yes, it was curriculum based, but I think he already started going into the flow stuff because all the toys that he was coming in was trying to get into some kind of randomness. Yeah,
you bring up a good point about randomness and flow and how they're both synonymous with each other, right. And not necessarily the divergent or like abandonment of the first gen curriculum, right. But it was more evolution in that he was just evolving martial artist basically. Right. But there's also some talk from what I'm gathering from the both of you of like this idea of dark side and that kind of the dark element of it. I mean, let's just be honest. This is learning how to hurt people. It's the study of hurting people, but how do you go about it is all the difference. And so, Renato, you were mentioning you were kind of on and off there, but you were certainly studying with him, and he showed you what he wanted to show you. But with Jason was there damn near every day.
For a while, yeah.
and Jason was there for a specific thing, and of course we were all friends with Sonny, and it's fair to say that you were friends with him too, but you were under there with a very formal way of saying, I'm the student, I want to learn something specific, and you didn't necessarily say I want to learn all of it, I want to learn the curriculum, I have a specific need because I'm a doorman and other things that I might not be privy to, and you needed to learn specific things like we talked about in the previous episode. Could you explain or describe the stuff that you guys were learning and perhaps the evolution from first gen, if you have any insight in that?
Yeah, I think from what I saw, and always correct me if y'all don't agree, but going from first, second, third, what I saw was him kind of like completing his the what you want to call it, orchestra or whatever, like was you guys were kind of you were the final performance kind of thing, and what he wanted to show to the world and have his name attached to it. And in my opinion, it was a much lighter version of kind of what we went through, and I think there was a lot of reasons for that. I think I know it had experience in the past with people that he'd known that had done some not so great things, and it really affected him, and he felt responsible, and he couldn't stop teaching. Like, I don't think he ever could stop teaching physically. Like that was just, he had to do that. He had so much stuff he had to get out of his head. But I do believe that I showed up at the point where he was transitioning to teaching people how to teach themselves in a way of like,
that makes sense to me.
The flow all that kind of stuff. Where I don't know if this is going to be too esoteric for some people, but what I would call like an 80% lower, if that makes sense to anybody. So you can get a gun that's 80% of what it's supposed to be, and then you have to machine the rest of it to make it something that's functional, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're already a machinist, it's not going to be that hard,
Right.
right? But if you're not, you have a whole bunch of work that you have to commit to understanding how to make that thing worthwhile. And
Yes.
that was his like passive vetting, right?
Mm.
Because the people that wanted that didn't come up with it, that weren't part of that mentality or part whatever that is beforehand, you would have to work very, very hard to get there, and you would have to do it on your own, right?
Interesting. Okay.
So when I came in, I think he was still he was very clear that he wanted a different direction, and he
He was explicit with that.
yeah, he was
Okay.
really pretty, like he was, yes, definitely, like
Okay.
not in so many words, but like I can do this better. And I think even he even did a, oh man, he did an article once, one of the few where he talked to somebody that got published in some obscure
Oh,
thing
really?
where, yes, where he said the difference between my old style of teaching and new style of teaching, I can get people to where I want them, but I'm going to say something obscure, like 3 years sooner than I could with my old style of teaching. So there was that aspect of it as well. But I also believe that he specifically went into and wanted to put to the world something that was a dueling art. And while it's a, ultimately it's a sword fight and whatever else, or a knife fight or whatever else,
Mm-hmm.
a duel is very different than assault. A duel is very different than defense. A duel is very different
For
than a
sure.
lot of things. You can take
Mm-hmm.
those elements and work real hard and implement that and put that into, but you have to do it.
Right.
You're
Hence
the
the
one.
20%.
You have to take that and like teach yourself that part, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I think he did with me mostly was he gave me 80% of the other stuff, and then I think he was waiting for me to stop doing homework in a lot of ways, right? So he could
Okay.
be like, well, if you don't, do this, but
Mm-hmm.
man, I did my homework. I went out there and like, I
Mm-hmm.
found people that were like willing to do dumb stuff and like, hey, let's put these on and let's see what happens. And I'd bring it back and I'd show them and be like, okay, man, then we like
Let's keep going.
go to the
Yeah.
next thing.
Yeah.
And, like part of the funny stuff, or the popular training now, and you see all these guys on the bob dummies and stuff. And there
Sure.
weren't any bob dummies, and
Mm-hmm.
this is totally taking a page from him, because also part of it was like watching him make stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
then being part of that, and a lot of that came out of because I had to learn to stop saying, hey, that's cool, because you just give it to me, and then I feel
Right.
guilty about it, but then I also couldn't return it because I knew that would be insulting,
Insulting
right?
too.
And so after the third or fourth time, I instead of saying, "Hey, that's cool," I'd have to go, "That's really neat how you did this. Can you show me
Mm-hmm.
how to do it?"
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the fact that I got excited about like working on knives or working on all that kind of stuff, that was another aspect of our relationship, because if I'd show up at 1 in the afternoon and stay till I had to go to work at like 8 or 9 at night, 2 of those hours is sitting at his table working on knives or training tools or whatever that is.
Right.
But
Because that was
so
part of
yeah,
it.
so
Yeah.
I made my own bob, if you will, like in
Uh-huh.
like '93, which was literally a couple of pieces of 2x4s with like an arm out, and I had a knife on the end of it, and I put it on
Right.
some kind of rubber band that was attached to the floor, so I could spin the thing or hit it and spin it, and this thing would come back with a knife. And
Mm-hmm.
and because it's a 2x4 and it's not something soft, if you miss with a short blade, you're going to pay for
Right.
it badly, you know? And, yeah, you're getting hit in the knuckles with, with a 2x4. And so he saw that commitment on my end, and I, begrudgingly or not, was just like, okay, let's, we kept going. And a lot of it too was the necessity of bringing in stuff from work and saying, hey, this and this and this. and then watching him think about it and his ability to break down stuff I talked a little bit about before, but was so ahead of its time too. And looking at people who talk about, the reality based stuff, and like, there's a lot of people out there that done amazing work, but he was doing this, in the early 90s, and his knowledge of it was much, much older. But that does allude to a much darker time. And even the attitude, the feeling of the place, the people that were in and out of there. Now, if regular students would come by, we'd go in the backyard and we work on flow.
Oh, really?
Right?
By that time already?
Sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Pendulum.
Yep.
Okay.
So it felt very private to me. It was like, if it's just me there, then it's like, then we can kind of explore. But he was definitely conflicted, right? He was definitely he didn't want negativity out in the world, and that a lot of that stuff was really negative. But he also saw, like, hopefully, I think that I was there honestly trying to figure this out for myself, and the reasons behind it. And so I would say 90% of what we did was not stuff that he wanted outside as a finished product, right? Like, I believe that the end of the third generation, and beginning with Kevin, I would say is like a pretty good earmark there for that. Is what he wanted to put in the world, and even though, like, we're sitting here and it's it's a blade based art, it's based as a dueling art, which is a conscious decision between two people to do something,
right?
And whether it's purely for to see who's more athletic or whatever else, or if it is because of some ridiculous grudge match that's never going to happen, it was his highest expression of art within that, and you could see it in the way that the mood you walk into the place when you guys were there was very different. Was very different.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'll say, just to give you an idea, like, we used to work we would use cigarettes. Like, that was part of training. We would use cigarettes.
How so?
On distractions, on the draw, flicking things in people's faces, We had a bucket across the room, and you flick the cigarette, draw the knife, right? You don't see that in curriculums, right? Like, that was some pretty ahead of it,
Yeah,
and I think that's, like, people focus on Sonny and they see his speed and they see his accuracy and they see his angles and, like, how did he just do that? But what they don't see is the deception, the
pre-fight.
He was a magician in a lot of ways. Like, his sleight of hand stuff.
Distractions.
You don't have to be good like Sonny. You don't have to be fast. You don't have to be accurate. You don't have to be any of those things if you can deceive people. Right?
Yeah.
And his deception was way up here, but his athleticism was also up here. So I still, like, regardless of whoever, watches, or, people's ideas on traditional versus other type of arts, you just don't have any idea what it is to be in front of somebody like that, and what they can do. It does seem otherworldly because of that sleight of hand stuff. There's some famous, like, YouTube guy who's really funny out there. He's a martial art commentator, but he's, like, very sarcastic but very well meaning. And he says, weird. He said, weird works. Like, if you don't know what it is, you're going to fall for it every time. And Sonny had 10,000 of those things just lined up, right? So anyway,
That's... No, I can definitely testify to that and some other things you were mentioning. I'm curious because you went there for specific things, and he showed you things that you needed and would be open to explore. But how much of that was second gen, for lack of a better word, curriculum? And how much of it was it just your custom thing? Because, again, if Sonny was a tailor, he was a custom suit maker kind of thing. Sure. And it sounds like he for sure was more bespoke for you. But then for the people in the back, how much of that was becoming more of a crystallized second generation material? And how much was spillover for you?
I feel like when we had when we had other people show up, we would go to a much more traditional, if you will, like setting
Sure.
where we'd be go into the backyard and yeah, we did a lot of pendulum. We did
Okay.
I know we did first, second. I want to say we did third. I could be wrong, flow.
Okay.
But we did a ton of flow. We did a ton of Largo.
I see.
I love the bog side because it was like an axe handle.
Yeah. Me too.
Right? Made sense.
Me too.
And
You would.
yeah. But that like the stuff that clicked with me is the stuff that made sense. You know.
Gotcha. Of course. Of course.
And that to me was like that makes sense. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
And that and short knives, like I never bothered with volley songs because I just didn't care. Because they were illegal, and so I'm not going to carry something that insult to injury, and you know, and he showed me some stuff, but you know, never with me the intent of learning stuff, and you know, I was like, oh, I'm never going to figure that out. Cool, moving on to something that you know is something I can grasp and make sense for me.
Of course.
But yeah, you know, we would have, like I said, the infrequent or frequent for, you know, short bursts of regular student stuff, and then that's what we would do. I wouldn't come in with other people in there and be like, hey man, I want to do, you know, like there was never any of that.
I see.
So there was definitely curriculum, there was definitely like flow based training, and the randomness. The one of the first things he did with me with sticks was he was like, hey, you're going to be blocking random strikes with sticks today. and I had never done, you know, and I was like, you know, gave him a look, and he was like, what do you think? And I was like, okay. Like, sure. Nice. You know, and he had a way, he figured it out. I can't tell you in 1,000 years how we did it, but you know, it was like basic Sinawalian breaking from that pattern, and you know, at least the 1 through 5. And yeah, by the end of the time, it was like, oh, okay, I'm hitting random blocking, you know, like in your first day, and like
that's awesome.
That's pretty cool, you know. And that's only because of him and the way that he could do stuff. So we did a lot of traditional stuff, and I'd get older guys come in, so then I'd see some of the older curriculum, and not that I understood it, but you just try to survive, you know.
Sure. So they didn't show you. You were just kind of the uke for if you guys they went over.
Oh no, you had to do it. You had to like, you know, they're gonna do it, and then you try to do it, and then like back until you figure it out, and
I see.
you know, and then you know we would do what I would consider an unrealistic weapon, but at full force training, like with machetes on certain days, where it's like, you know, there was no aluminum. We didn't use safety trainers. We just used dull machetes, which are like very, very thin baseball bats. You know,
it still
if
hurts.
You get hit, you're in trouble, and
you still get cut. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And broken bones. You know. And so there was some like trial by fire stuff, and everybody had, you know, I from what I think is everybody had their you know, cold showers, you're calling it. But you know, there were times where I you know, like, I want you to push this as far as you can, because I still want to see, like, with all that fear, if I can still do what I'm supposed to do. And you know, I missed a few times, and was lucky he was who he was, because we were swinging hard enough that these things they're sticking together. Yeah, you know, machetes are not like great tempered things. They're rolled flat sheet steel. Yeah, right. And so these things, we got to the point where sometimes we're like having to pull them apart. So you get hit with that, you're done. But it's putting that fear into you, because it should be. You know, you should be afraid, because this is not, you're not sitting there in a bunch of pads and you know, working on something, which, you know, it's great for stuff, but it's like there's no room for error, and my only safety is him, because if I miss, you know, which I have, where, you know, because he's, like I said, sleight of hand, and I think he's there, so I'm going that way, and then you know, you fall for bait, and you go for that thing. But anyway, I'm getting off. But like, we did have regular stuff, but we did also very much have the connection of like, I need this for work, and And so he would work with me on that. But also, too, I think part of that and part of him being okay with doing some of that was also he saw how I was learning through the like the craft and the making parts of stuff, and would see my commitment there too. And I never got good at that stuff. I got good enough to make it a job later, but not like, but not like I don't consider myself a craftsman. I can like prototype stuff, you know.
Right.
But he saw my commitment there too, and if you have a well-designed knife, you can tell a lot about somebody by how they design something. Like you can tell a lot.
For sure.
And so that was, I think, part in his mind, that was part of my curriculum too, was he was seeing what I was doing with that.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very cool. Anyway,
yeah, that's so awesome. No, no, that was great. I mean, being third gen and like I guess the youngest of the whole crew, it's interesting to investigate and look back because one, it's just like I want to just know all of it as far as material and how he came up with it and the meaning and the journey he took to get there. But two, just to know him and to know his mindset and his whole approach behind it. And so it's great to hear all these stories and your firsthand accounts to it. I do want to respond to two things you brought up. The first thing of being deception and him being a magician, and definitely saw that in at least the third gen material. He would do funny stuff, just silly stuff. While we're flowing, right? We would flow, and then instead of like giving a feed or a strike, he would just stick his hand out to shake your hand, that type of shit. And you're just like so confused as to like what do you want me to do? And then you're just like, he was like, "Oh, you did good. Yeah. Just silly stuff like that. Or he would look outside in the patio and see someone's at the door, and then you would be like, oh, "Who's there?" And then he would do the thing, and it's just that idea of deception, but also distraction and things that magicians do is just basically distractions,
Just to add to that, Greg, I think you guys were part of this whole thing. It might have started with Jason, but you guys were always messing with each other that if you dropped a knife or a stick, you would pick it up, right? And so the other guys will hit you to tell you that you better pay attention to everything else. Now, that was prolific. You guys did that a lot back in your generation. I think that might have happened with Jason already because you were always aware of stuff.
We had the one in one very specific thing is a lot of what we did was almost nose to nose,
right?
And starting here,
right?
Oh, interesting.
Right? Mm-hmm. And so you're reading everything by like looking. You're not staring right at the person. You're kind of staring like around the person and then like waiting for movement kind of thing.
Right.
So yeah, if you're doing that and you're talking to somebody you're unsure about and something falls on your foot, you look down and you're done. And that was like, he do a lot. He had all kinds of stuff along those lines. He'd be able to flick pennies off the what's the word for the thing you keep the food in, the refrigerator, that thing, because he'd be standing face to face and the refrigerator's off to the side, and we'd be like, looking at each other, and I just, you hear this like ping, but it would be from there, and I'd be like, don't move, but he like little crap like that stuff is 80%. If you're in that part of the world, that's
right.
80% of winning.
Absolutely.
That initial,
reading.
So anyway, but yeah, so like I said, it was from here to here. So yeah, there was all those kinds of things trying to get you off topic and trying to get you looking around or trying to get you, like what was that,
Yeah.
I think that was in everything that he did because, like, let's say Sonny and I would go into a restaurant and we would just go sit down, right? And he would ask, "What did you see?" without looking, right? Without turning and confirming what you saw. Did you see the guy there? Did you see he was left-handed or eating right-handed? I mean, little conversations like that. What about the door? What did you see? I mean, so just getting you to where you can go, always be looking, right? And just to train you to start looking like that, not to be unaware of anything else, right? So
yes.
What did you see? What did you notice? Did you see how many people were in the back of you now or in the table? Stuff like that. You just walk in and you sit down, you order blah blah, and then did you notice all these things? Did you notice an exit door? That kind of stuff. I think that was the beginning of and just being aware. And by the time it got to you, it became playful. It became playful to where you guys, oh, I got you, blah blah blah,
right?
And you stop playing.
Yeah.
So you guys, he was just in heaven with you guys at the third gen. He was just
I'm happy that he was able to have fun, and I'm happy to be a part of it, and I'm happy to hear that he was in a happier place with third gen, and I'm happy to just be a part of it. I think what we're all kind of describing is what modern people, especially in tactics, talk about, of just being aware, situational awareness, but also just observing your surroundings and then orienting yourself to the surroundings, which is called OODA loop, I think, what people would refer to that. But Sonny was doing it before I even heard of it, it sounds like. And the other things too was just like sometimes he would just stand like this, and I forget what conversations we were having. It's like, when people are like that, you can just kind of be like, talk like this, because your hands are up and prepared and perhaps closer to a tool by doing this. And so a lot of it was really like, how do you read the situation before it actually happens and unfolding? And I know, at least in science, kind of skills acquisition science, there's a thing just that they refer to as read, plan, and do, which again kind of tracks with, OODA loop is just reading, and this whole idea of seeing. And I remember him saying, like, I'm teaching you how to see. And a lot of it with flow-based stuff was that. But then even before engagement, it sounds like I'm teaching you how to read and see, just by Renato's example. The other thing I wanted to bring up too was the whole 80-20. 80-20, is that math? Yeah, okay. The 80-20, that idea of like, I'll take you 80% of the way. I don't know if it was because I was young at the time, or this was the kind of where he was at with the material. But I do remember feeling like, okay, we're learning a lot of this root movement stuff. And when he would show us, this is what it looks like in different expressions. And then that's when he would just run off a series of techniques, and me and Jay would just be like, oh, that's cool. It's like, oh, it was just mind-blowing of all variations you can do from this one root movement that he showed us. And I think that speaks to the 80-20 thing, but also just internally feeling like, okay, I know this thing, but then when I have fights or encounters in the street, how does it apply? I remember thinking to myself, thinking like, how do I connect all of this, and how is this fighting? And and it wasn't until I was older that I have to start teaching this stuff that I have to make sense of it and really understanding like, oh, okay, this is the work that he showed us, but the rest of it you do have to do, otherwise you won't arrive to these points of your own expression that is honest. And that's why I say VSCK is kind of the long way in a sense, because he'll give you the root movements to arrive at your own techniques to these certain problems, and you come up with your own solutions. And so I do appreciate it, but I wish someone told me that ahead of time so I can expedite my learning and I can ask the right questions, because I didn't know. I have so many questions still to ask him, and I just wish he was here so I could ask him. But so that's what comes up for me for that, and I could certainly testify to that. But it sounds like Pendulum and flow started coming in all of these experiences in all of our generations. And so I'm curious as to like where this idea of pendulum came from, and this idea of flow, and is flow just one side of a coin to, like, say for instance static or not flow? Because right now if you ask someone, what would you say, or how would you describe VSCK? You would easily say flow based on what's out there right now anyway. Pendulum and sword-based stuff, and Sonny's elusiveness, and just trying to understand how we can help paint the picture of this evolution of how he got to third gen from first gen. Do you guys have any ideas as to where Pendulum came from?
Yeah. The
I know
well,
you mentioned
guys,
it before, but yeah.
did we talk? I think maybe we were talking about it offline, but for sure it came from dance. And Ren, what'd you say that was?
Yeah, no, I think one of
Was not ballroom, but was
there was cha-cha, there was
right
a lot of stuff.
It's
because
like
of the
social
background.
dance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not ballroom because that's for. I was going to say something funny, but I'm not going to say it.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
But they had a lot of name for it, like touch dancing. There's partner dancing, basically.
Yeah, it's partner dance. It's social
Right.
dance, yeah.
East Coast,
Right.
different West Coast, but I had some other funny thing to say. But yeah, so partner dancing was part of that conversation piece of the flow, the back and forth. So he was excellent in you know, Steve will tell you that in Europe that he had lines of women waiting to dance with him.
Crazy.
That's wild.
Right? It is, right? Because once you see him dance, and people that did not know how to dance, he would make him look good. Right? This is why the attraction to, hey, you know, I look good. I don't know how to move, but he would just guide people, women specifically, and that's the prowess of being able to teach flow, right? You lead them, you get them there, and this is all the hata portion, which is the fainting portion
Okay.
of his art, right? And but yeah, absolutely the dance, because he was that in the 70s already.
Yeah.
He was
He was a champion dancer, right?
well, I don't know about a champion dance, but he did a lot of it. Like
Okay.
the clubs and the touch dancing was huge. The I forgot what they're called. There's a name for it in the 70s.
Okay.
with the lights.
Disco?
Disco. Come on, Ren.
I didn't want to say it.
This is your time, right?
I did
This
not
is your
want to say it
time.
'cause that would have dated my ass. Ooh, sorry.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Yeah, well, I find it interesting, though.
Back then, yeah.
What's that?
He was already partner dancing by then.
Right.
So a lot of this stuff was movement, right? Yes, he had a curriculum, but he also had this passion. He already had this other stuff going on. So his both his passion came into play, and that's how he taught most of the art. That's when he started transitioning
I see.
of the footwork and the he already had the footwork going because of that. In fact, his lesson plans had Fred Astaire looking thingies.
Yeah, I remember this.
Yeah.
Remember that? Yeah. So here's put your right foot here, left foot there, blah 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 blah. You pandol here, you strike number 2 there, and that's how he based his curriculum from the Fred Astaire looking lesson plans. Right. So that was he was already there, and he just needed a medium to put it on paper so we can show it. Now, going to that, the people that were having a hard time with that, he would ask them to go learn how to dance or partner dance specifically.
Yeah.
And most of them were lighter color. not a lot of pigmentation.
Yep.
That's on brand. That tracks. That tracks.
I'll have you know, I and this early on, and I didn't understand. I had been there for a little bit,
Yeah.
and he'd been there off and on. I knew him a little bit, but not real well. And Sonny and I were finishing up and sitting watching. And when we finished, and again, I'm pretty new. I don't know everybody real well. And says, "Hey, are you a dancer?" And I thought he was being insulting.
Oh.
Right?
So he
said,
thought
"Are
he
you
was trying to
I mean,
insult
in
you.
my world, you don't. That's not.
Yeah, you don't associate dance
you don't-
with martial
yeah, you
arts
don't-
and fighting.
That's
Yeah,
not.
you're right.
And I'm
How
like,
dare you.
Excuse me? Like, this is going to get awkward real fast. And he was like, no, you move real well. And I was like, okay. Right. But like, there's definitely there was that moment of like, oh, this is going to end probably before it starts.
Yeah, right.
but
it was a compliment.
Yes, it was. But I had not learned that yet,
Right.
along the same lines of like, oh, you hit hard like a boxer, and I was like, oh, and I'm feeling good about myself. He's like, no, 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 no. He's like, it's too slow. And I was like, oh.
Right. You don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I do find it interesting that a lot of great fighters do have dance experience. I mean, you look at Bruce Lee, he's like champion cha-cha dancer. But outside of Sonny and Bruce Lee, you also have the boxer Lomachenko. His dad took him out of boxing and had him study traditional Ukrainian dance. And then he came back, and now he's like really well known for his footwork and his evasiveness and being able to manage distance. And so I have my own theories around that because, like, I mean, it's some of it's obvious, right? It's like dancing is partner dancing, and if you're dueling or fighting, you're having to manage distance and timing with another person. Just the intentions are different, right? And so I think to be a good fighter, you should also be a good lead, as in a dance lead, because you're dictating where the dance goes. You're controlling, and you're controlling the other person into what to do. And so much of Sonny's flow and him flowing with us, he was manipulating all of it the whole time. And not necessarily to look good for aesthetics per se now, because the intentions were different. But now he's leading us into traps. He's leading us into the parts of the room, running into the fan or into the couch at will, you know?
Yep.
And so I think there is something to dance and the ability to lead someone, and the correlation between being a good dance leader and a good fighter, if we're talking about sport perhaps, but also maybe a street fighter as well, because you're leading someone. As soon as you flick the cigarette into someone's face, you just took the first step, and now you're leading them into a trap. Or you're just looking at another person the other way and kind of giving that diversion. You're leading that dance, so to speak. And so I think that's so brilliant. But that's something I also didn't really reflect on until I had to teach this thing.
Did you guys? I'm sorry. Go on. Sorry.
No.
Just along those lines, the one of the more important things that I found going out, because I did have to go train with other people because it was mostly me and Sonny, and while that was wonderful, I still needed, because he, there was a certain level he would take things to in the house. You don't go beyond it.
Right.
You don't go beyond it. As far as like level of aggression and all that kind of stuff, and he would encourage me to go outside and do that, but he's like, hey, let's not break everything in here, kind of, And so I would. You have to go out. But the first time, and this is for both you guys, is one of the first times I went out and just did regular old stick fighting. Is a buddy's got a gym, it's a big gymnasium, and it's open space, and it felt like I had an oxygen tank on my back, and I was getting the pure, like I could do anything because I'm using the machetes in this small little backyard. Your footwork has to, your angulation, everything has to be, it just trains it into you that you get out, and then all of a sudden you're like, I can do anything right now. This is like so relaxed. This is so relaxed. Even though this guy's trying to take my head off with a stick, I can go over there, right? Like, so I don't, that I was just wondering how everybody else felt the first time they kind of like stepped out and did that somewhere else, and was just like, holy crap, this is so much easier.
Well, I do hear of people having Visayan stuff in their experience, and feeling like they were able to do a lot more, or the other person couldn't do what they needed to do, right? So the footwork actually really helped them a lot. I have that coming back saying, I didn't know I could do all this stuff, like what you're saying, Jason, right? So there's been conversations like that. So it does help them a lot with the footwork and the evasions and all this other stuff. So that's been, like I said, the dancing part of Sonny, his music also background, because he was Martini will tell you, as a child he followed Sonny and his brothers in their band. So all that stuff. So the music, the dancing, we had dancing in the Philippines, right? In the Philippines as well, with the folk dancing. So all that coming to play, his Filipino-ness comes into the picture because of being able to come up with something out of nothing, really, of trinkets. So all that to me is all the Filipino stuff. I don't want to make that sort of a. I just feel that's where all the stuff comes from, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's ingenuity with stuff, making stuff from nothing, creating something, being problem solving. There is music because he sets a tone for all the workouts. He puts the music.
For sure, he's like a DJ.
If it's flow, then he gives you Japanese Zen music, or some kind of rhythmic kind
Upbeat.
of stuff.
Yeah.
Upbeat stuff, so where he can, you can get energized. So all these things were intentional, right? And so I thought it just came into play, and you guys gave you the third gen. I don't want to like take out the first gen and the second gen at all, but you guys gave him the playground to play and laugh and have fun, and be at peace with all this stuff because he was older, he's settled into this peace in his head. And now he can just play, and let's try this today, and blah, 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 this, and then that's when you guys, I think, concentrate on your footwork as well. Look, you can angle here, fulcrum there with your legs, and all this other stuff. It was just amazing to see you guys play, and it was just fun. It was just fun watching him have fun.
Yeah, I'm certainly happy to hear it. All of his history and interest in art, I think, again, kind of informs the other thing, which kind of was a culmination of VSCK and just him in general. To answer your question, Jason, yes, when I would spar, flow, or learn from other people, or actually get to cross sticks or blaze with other people, it felt like a luxury to have so much space to move around. Because I was like, man, I could easily avoid people now if I'm not being confined in a space. It just felt way more manageable. I'm like, I can just disengage so easy. But also it felt like my movements could be bigger, and it was unlimited. So there is something about constrained training and training in his living room for whether it was intentional or not. And so that's what I tell students now. I'm like, we used to train in this little 10 by 10 area with grown men, and there's sometimes 4 of us at one time.
So,
with the topic of play and like just the mood of things being different, I also think that play and experimentation should be a part of learning and fighting and skills acquisition as well. There has to be room to experiment. Especially if you're trying to be random and you're trying to see all possibilities. Because the thing is with Sonny too, is what I'm getting is that, when people zigged, he would zag. He would do things that were unexpected, unconventional. He would do things that were weird. And the only way to arrive to those places is sometimes to experiment and see and play. And sometimes you could pull things off when you're playing. And it's like, hey, wait a minute, there's a seed there. Let's see where this can go. And a lot of times that's what third gen would do. Sometimes he would see us do something and he'd be like, that's a good one if you can pull it off. And then he would repeat what we would do. And a lot of times we didn't know what we did, but he saw it and he would be like, wait, let's try that, And so I think, what high level Muay Thai people do, they don't spar hard, they play. It's just now becoming commonplace where it's like, we should not spar hard. We should just as if we're playing. But that's what we've been doing this whole time, and that's how he would keep the mood kind of light. And, unless he felt like we were slacking, and he'd be like, make no mistake, this is what we're doing. I know we can joke and stuff, but.
By the way, Greg, I want to compliment you with the way you're teaching. I
appreciate that.
Sometimes that comes to me in a roundabout way because I'm not on the internet and all that stuff, right? I'm not on any of this stuff. But sometimes somebody would send me a clip. And I just appreciate that because my position has always been, that it's you can know a bunch of stuff, but if you can't transfer it, it's of no good. It's gonna die with me. It's gonna die with Jason, right? So to be able to transfer that to a trusted somebody, it's a gift that you can do that. That you let art grow, right? You can't. But I just appreciate how you're teaching it because you give them a foundation, you give them something to work with, an area to within confines of this. You play with this way, you experiment and you guys have fun doing it. I just love the way you teach it, Greg. And there's a lot of people can teach that way, but I just appreciate you just because you give them the latitude to experiment and play and have fun, right? We didn't have all that stuff, but I just want to say that I'm loving what you're doing, Greg, and just
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Just keeping doing that, and like I said, I appreciate people that raise Sonny's name. Some people forget to say that, but I think a lot of stuff that we picked up was from Sonny, and it kind of we have bringing our own goulash kind of stuff, and then it becomes bigger, and I'm glad you're doing it the way you're doing it, not the way Sonny necessarily did it. You have your own way to do it, and I'm watching you, and I'm loving it.
Oh right? Man, I appreciate it. That means a lot to me coming from you. It is how Sonny taught me and taught us, and so I'm kind of queuing off of Sonny. And so if it's anything that does come from Sonny, I am adding to it, at least with my lens, but not necessarily the material. Because I have to put my lens on it because that's how I understand it, and I wish he was still here just so I can confirm, like, is this it? Is this?
But the thing is, you can do all that stuff. You can question all that stuff. But the fact of the matter is this, Greg, that you're transferring what you know, what you digested, what you crystallized in your stuff, and that's what you're transferring, and that's how the art grows. That's how it grows, and you don't have to. Yeah, of course you can have that conversation you had about Sonny. What's this? What's that? But we all have that, right? But you're doing it on your own terms, and you're sharing it with the kind of passion that we all have. Sonny had, and that's all that you really need to have the art grow. And that's in your own vein that's growing. So please, don't question that. Just have fun doing it, and your student will teach you. I didn't want to teach. I didn't want to share. Jason and I talked about that. I hate being on freaking camera, right? I don't want to talk about anything, but the fact is that I'm forced to share, so therefore I grow. Oh, that must be what Sonny meant, and that just comes in with time, maturity, and just sharing, right? The more you share, the more you pick up, and I think you're doing that. And Jason, he's the most. What I call Jason? The most unknown. He's the most unknown person that I know. Students, right? He's the most famous, but not famous student. So I want him to come out and speak, because everybody knows Jason, but nobody knows Jason, right?
Right.
And he's somewhere in the dark, coming out.
Ether.
He's in the mist. He's in the mist.
Yep. That was actually a big connection for me and Sonny too, was when we would go out in public, and he was uncomfortable. He didn't like being in public. He didn't like being around people, and I knew what his brain was doing because my brain was doing the same thing.
Okay. Which was what?
And which was you were
processing.
You were taking in all of the information that most people are not, and you're basically you're assessing, like, you're giving threat levels to everything, and like and I watched, I was like, oh crap, and I felt protective of him, of all the weird things, because I'm like, oh god, this guy's doesn't want to be here either, like he doesn't want to be around all these people, he doesn't want to be out in the public, and it made it, I think that was part of the connection, and also made me feel a little like more normal about that, about not, but there was definitely like it was a while, I don't know, probably a year or so, maybe shorter, but a while anyway, before we actually went out and did stuff or got food, or went to Traders, went to the gun store, or like Bonanza, and then seeing him out for the first time, and like, holy crap, he's just as uncomfortable as I am. Right.
Interesting.
And that was like that was a strong, like, it was a very strong connection for me. It was like, oh wow, this guy that's so like capable, and just like he doesn't need, like, I don't need to be out there with all those people. And I was like, oh man.
Jason, but you carried more stuff with you than Sonny did, though.
I mean, so he says. So
This is
he
all
said.
speculation. We don't have any hard
That's-
evidence on
That
this.
is all hearsay, sir.
Yeah, I know.
That is all hearsay. Yeah, that's all hearsay.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Harassing you, Jason.
Yeah, I think it's healthy to have a certain level of caution, and
It
you
was
should
too
definitely
much.
be aware. But yeah,
Yeah.
how much is too much? You know, because
Yeah.
this is something I try to explain to my girl too. It's just like, yo, you know, we can't do X, Y, and Z because this, and that, or like we can't have the trunk open. We can't both be on our phones if we're walking around. You know, that type of thing. It's just like we have to be aware of being a victim. And let's not do that, you know. And she's just like, "What? What? You're paranoid?" I'm like, "Well, maybe a little bit, but I think a healthy dose of paranoia is good, just to play it safe." I mean, you know, when I walk down the street, at least when I was younger, and certainly now, it's like when I walk down the street and I feel something is up or something is getting set up, that's just, I don't know what that is. It's intuition, but like that's enough foresight to be like, let's not go this way or let's go the other way, you know. But I think maybe that's what you're speaking to with the not paranoia, but the caution. You know, you said the what was it? The threat level.
Yep.
We're all just assessing the threat level and how much we can manage at any given time.
I think his whatever you want to call it, his level of awareness of the world was, and you know, whatever, this is coming from my perspective, so grain of salt, but like, by the time I got to Sonny, I had done a bunch of other stuff. None of those arts dealt with anything like that. You know, I whatever, done karate and kickboxing, judo and jiu-jitsu and like whatever else, and like I was like whatever I could find I was doing at the time, you know. And the Bay Area had a huge amount of that, so you could go everywhere and try everything. And you know, I was working in clubs and dealing with fights and all that kind of stuff. But Sonny was the first one that I clicked with, where, and I'm going to say this, and I might regret, but like coming from a more violent beginning, coming from a land and a place where poverty is way more prevalent than here on the average, and how you have to carry yourself there, carried here, right? And I really picked up on that from him. Yeah. And Ren's laughing at me.
No. I'm just thinking where he came from, right? I went there. I went to Cebu, down Bantayan, where he lived, and I met Tini there. And thank you to you, Jason, because that's how we connected.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was in some places really rough. You have to pay attention. You know, in fact, so much so that when I walked in, and Tini and I went to ask for Sonny's, where he used to live, we asked for a certain person, and the answer was absolutely not. We don't know what the heck are you talking about? That's the first thing Filipinos do over there. When you ask for somebody by name, it's like the mafia. You say, we have no idea. Then you get the guy, hey, so and so was looking for you. Do you wanna? You know, you don't say he's over there.
Right.
That's just common sense. That's how shit works over there.
Yeah.
And Tini told me that, and that's who I was looking for. That Sonny's grandfather was a very famous screamador. Back there, and I couldn't.
That's right.
You remember that, Jason? And and that's who I was trying to go figure out. But Tina and I couldn't figure it out. In fact, I've never followed up on that. I saw him last time a couple of years ago, but I never. I would have wanted to know more about Sonny's grandfather. Apparently,
me too.
He was a well-known fighter,
right,
back in the Philippines, right? So anyways, got sidetracked there, but anyways, that's where he came from. Was
right. That makes sense,
right? And so you have to be aware of stuff. So
yeah, I always felt like this kind of pre-fight kind of things should be talked about, even though he didn't explicitly talk to us about it in class. It wasn't necessarily part of the curriculum, but every so often he would kind of bring certain things up like that. And then he would also mention like, but this is more dark. This is more dark side. And I thought, dark side, what's that? I'm like, is this Star Wars?
Yeah,
But every once in a while, he would talk about material or approaches to things and say, this is what you would do, or this is how some people would do it, whether it was like ambush and you have no chance of even knowing what's happening. Or he would describe, this is one way you could do it, but this is more dark. And I'm curious, like, he didn't show much, if at all, in third gen dark side or anything dark per se, but it sounds like first and second may have had that element. What is dark side, and how would you describe it to people, and why the aversion to it? Obviously, other than hurting people and putting negative things out there. But do you think that also informed the material change?
Jason?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I do. I do think it was part of his catalyst to build into something different than what he was doing. I do believe that there was, because like I said, there was that interview that he did put out a couple of years ago, right before he passed. Or somebody put it out right after he passed, I think.
Okay, I haven't seen this.
It's pretty short. It's it's like a couple of paragraphs long. But it wasn't talking of his new way of teaching and the flow-based stuff and all that. So he did definitely have other reasons where he felt that he could get people to where he wanted quicker. And he attributed his kind of third generation teaching for that. So there's definitely that too. But I do believe that a lot of it, or not a lot of it, but at least some of it, had to do with his previous experience with earlier, I never got names, whatever, it's unimportant, but where he knew or had trained or been around people that had done some not pleasant things, and it really affected him, and he didn't want to be the person that's putting that out there. Right, like he'd been through enough of that himself, that he didn't want to put that stuff out, and so he definitely had conflict when we were training privately a lot, meaning like there's no one else around, where we'd get somewhere based off of like working on stuff outside of the curriculum, and he'd stop and be like, you got to give me a minute, or I really don't want to go here with this right now. And which I'd always be like, yeah, that's fine, whatever, and because that just means I'm going to go home and I'm going to like go drill stuff until and then bring it back. It's like, was this it? And they'd be like, okay, or whatever. But or he'd come back later and be like, okay, well, we can continue. But he was very cautious even after I'd been there for a while on some of that. But like I said, a lot of stuff was nose to nose. And just, because also too, and that was the benefit of having a small training area and like using his kitchen, which was even smaller, because like one of the most prevalent places I worked that had the most chance of violence happen, there was like an L-shaped hallway when you go in. And so you're in it's an abattoir. It's like all kinds of ways to get yourself screwed up. And so like being in that compressed little area and having things happen that fast, if you get used to somebody like him trying to draw a knife and stopping it, then you deal with most people. And then you have whatever music and nightclub and drunks and everything else going on. It gets your success rate gets lower and lower. But if the speed that you're used to is him, then the whole world kind of like gets turned down a little bit.
Gets more manageable.
Yeah. But there's always something new under the sun, though. There's always something new under the sun, and that's the thing. If you've never seen it before, you're not going to know what to do.
Yeah, everything works once, Right.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I just curious as to does that mean first gen and second gen are inherently darker, because so much of at least third gen and what people might identify as Sonny's art is, some people say, oh, you guys do the dance thing, right? You guys you do the back and forth thing. I'm like, yeah, I mean, it looks, yeah, it could look like a dance. And where I was younger, I'd be a little more defensive of that comment.
Sure,
but
sure,
nowadays, it's like we're obviously not seeing what's happening. But also,
Right.
your opinion doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
But you know, there's two kind of questions there for me. It's just like, did avoiding the dark side basically render his art a little more approachable and more dance-like? And did it also take the edge off of it?
I
think it gave you more tools, but
yeah,
you had to find more stuff.
yeah.
Okay.
You could find all of it, but you had to work. You had to think about it first. It's like I said, if you were
80-20?
a machine, yeah, if you were a machinist and he gave you the 80%, the 20 is super easy.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not a machinist, you got to learn how to be a machinist first, and then that 80% is going to be easy for you.
Are we attributing the 20% to being killer mentality?
Sure. Or experience in that, or already having been through that kind of stuff, and based with other stuff, because I came in being okay at a bunch of different things. Not great, but pretty good at a bunch of different things, and just having forced the experience part of it. But I still had to work, and that was the only reason why he kept showing me that stuff, is because he would be like, like I said, he'd show you, here's 80%, and then I'd go home and like call up the guys that I train with, like, let's do this until it's not stupid, like do this until it's like
Right.
it's consistently working, and or if it was something specific, like build a dummy for it and work that, is this what you're talking about? And be like, yes, okay, let's move on, we'll do more, But anyway, Ren, you're gonna say.
I think the whole goal was to take off the edge of it. That was
Okay.
what I believe in my heart that he wanted to do. Take the edge off so that he can teach you more, show you more, so you guys can experience more in that environment. To take the edge off, take the aggression off, to be able to have a conversation, so that you can do that. So and then everything else, that 20% you're talking about, is your personality. All that stuff was in there in the first gen, if you will, but I didn't have that in me, if you will, to want to. I that wasn't me. That wasn't my personality. That wasn't my frequency. I knew it was there, but it wasn't. I didn't go after that. Right. That wasn't my stuff. So the 20% becomes what Jason's talking about, which is, you have to have the mindset, the mentality, the personality, the frequency, all that stuff to put it together for its stuff. But everything is there. But to get there, you have to learn the foundational stuff, the third gen stuff, the third flow stuff, so that you can. But if it's in your personality, of course you can find all these other things.
Right.
Of course, that. But you also have to be able to pull the trigger. And this is the big part about that. Can you pull the trigger? Can you do what you in your mind? Most people can't.
Right.
Most people can't, and they fall apart at the sight of a cut. Their blood, their own blood, all that stuff can be in the picture. So all this dark side that you're talking about, it's you have to kind of take that out of the way so that you can learn the flow, the going in, getting out, all that stuff, is absolutely all the things that you learn. All the other stuff is a byproduct of your experience, your mindset, your frequency, all that stuff. And can you? That's the question that Sonny asked Jason. Can you do that? Can you go out there and do it? Let me see you do it. Right? And a lot of people, won't be able to do that. Right? You have to be in that place in your head. This is a life or death thing. And in that position, can you pull the trigger? Can you pull the trigger? Right? And that's the big question that you got to ask yourself. Do I live in that environment? To me, no, I don't. But Jason did. So he had to do that. That's part of his survival mechanism. I was in that light where I had to defend myself. Now, could I have? I have no idea. right? So you have to kind of ask yourself that 20% has to be all the variables that each of us have. Yes, you can look good doing this thing. People don't understand that. The people that say those things, Greg, are the people don't understand what you're doing. They don't know. They don't know. They don't have an inkling of what's going on. Right.
Right.
And so I don't mind. I didn't want that to be a preachy kind of stuff, but that 20% is really all where everything comes together for you. You put it in that crucible, right? You have all these tools. You have put it in that crucible, and then you have to. And this is Sonny's question: can you pull the trigger? Can you take somebody out? Can you do that? And that's the part that you have to ask yourself, and that's all individual.
Right.
People can talk. I can do this. I can do all that stuff. But at the end of the day, if your life was on the line, that's a different story.
True.
Right. And anyways, I didn't want to get dark that way, but that's part of Sonny's asking us about the dark side. Right. Can you do that? And if you can, why are you even here? But you can't teach some of that stuff if that's all you have in your head. You have to let that go for a little bit, and unless there was some reason for it. What Jason he's trying to survive coming home. That's something else. That's something else, right? And then there's the rest of us, who are. Some people, your students, right? You got to ask yourself, Greg, are those students, are they, can they? I mean, I looked a couple of your students, they're some of these students
they're nice people. Yeah.
They're nice people, right? Some of the Berkeley people, Birkenstock wearing people.
Yeah. God bless them.
That sounded bad.
No. It's part of the truth. I mean, I'm like that too.
The intellectuals, right?
Sure.
You can theorize all you want.
Absolutely.
You can theorize all you want, right? And you can read that in the book. You can do this. You can look at it. You can even look good. Can you pull the trigger? And that's the part. That's the dark side portion that people sometimes don't say. That's the 20% that Jason's talking about, right? That's to turn it into some kind of flow and happy, learning something, or you can make it work for you to save your family and yourself. And that's where it splits.
Right.
And Sonny was always worried about karma because that was his thing. This connection with or knowing the dark side in karma. That's what Sonny was. That's why he was conflicted with Jason.
He felt it would come back to him.
Well, it always comes back to you. Always comes back. This is his belief, right? And so this is the part that you have to ask yourself where you're at, right? But knowing the difference, right? Can you do this? Okay, you can do it. Done. Let's go play. You can put in your own juice into that, right? And because you have a family to save, you have yourself to save, you want to come home in one piece. Yes, absolutely, right? Sorry, that sounded preachy.
No, I thought that was well said, and I think it needed to be said. No. That's why we have our elders. We need our elders to keep us in line. And that's why I think it's good for you to.
Sorry about the talk statement. I just didn't know.
You're gonna get canceled now.
I know.
Someone's gonna complain and put it in the comments.
That came out. I don't know where that came from.
What's funny now though is Birkenstocks are in fashion. So
no way.
Take that for what it is.
Aren't they going back out again already?
I have no idea. I'm old too. So
okay.
Well, I'm old now. Relatively speaking. But I just that reminds me. Before we kind of close things out here, is that we did have a lot of fun. There was a lot of laughter and there was a lot of playfulness. Yeah. But when we got a little too loose and lost track, Sonny would get upset.
Yeah.
And, he'd turn the music down and he would get real stern with us.
Stern and quiet and speak lower and whisper.
Yeah.
Oh, we got
Oh my
serious,
God.
right?
I was like, yo, what just happened? The energy just changed. He's like, I don't know verbatim. I don't remember verbatim, but I just know he had to say this maybe less than a handful of times to us as a group.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, basically the gist was like, make no mistake, we can have fun and we're laughing and we're playing here, but make no mistake, we're learning how to hurt people.
Yeah.
And so we should take it seriously.
Sure.
I know we're just having fun, but understand this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
And again, it needed to be said. That's why we need our OGs. This is why we need to have guidance. People need guidance. People need elders to keep us in line. And so I thought that was good that he would do that, because that would put us back in line and really focus on the material. And sure enough, there would be points of elevation that we all felt like, yo, we got better. And you can tell he was like real happy. He was like, okay, now we can do some work. I'm like, yeah, what? I thought we were doing work the whole time. He's like, now we can get started to some more stuff. So he was really trying to elevate us, but definitely was like, yo, stop messing around and let's get serious. When it's serious. So I do appreciate that.
One thing I wanted just to put out there for folks is he was very clear in his mind the difference between dueling and self-defense and all of those things. And so there is and should be no illusion with any of us, any of the students or people that are watching, listening, and seeing the stuff that he does. The flow-based things that he was putting out was specifically to become expert in dueling. And he knew the difference between that and the other things. It also allows people, again, if they follow that path, to find and create but you have to put a lot of work in. You've got to do, resistant hard training against, uncooperative people over and over and over again, to take that stuff and build it into a usable, repeatable thing on a defensive line. Yeah. But he was very clear in that separation, because he's been on both sides of the coin, and he's been in, the difference between a tournament or the difference between somebody trying to take you down on the street or whatever else. He knew all that stuff. And so it would make me feel bad if people thought, oh, this guy's just he's teaching sword dancing or whatever, the most, right. The most, whatever sarcastic way you could look at that stuff, because having played with all different kinds of people and some very, very dangerous people that are very good at different very hard contact stuff, no one has that speed or that the vision, the ability to see, and just that blink of an eye of it's over before it starts. Right. So anyway, I just wanted to make that clear that he was very aware of what parts of where fit where, what dueling is this and self-defense is this and right. Predatory attacks are this and whatever.
Could you maybe give for the audience what the definition of an idea of dueling versus everything else?
Dueling is an agreement between two people. It's like you have two UFC fighters get into the octagon. They know they're about to get into a fight. Right? Yeah. They're aware. They probably stretched, and they're, they're wearing gloves and mouthpieces, and there's a set of rules that they have regardless. And they follow those rules. Now, can you take 90% of what they're doing and use that as something for defense? Absolutely, right? But at the end of the day, they both know what's about to happen, and they've agreed to it, right? Dueling is also, it's the same thing. That's a duel, right? Dueling is an agreement that two people are going to go do something under whatever set of rules that is, where, defending yourself or predatory attack is a completely different thing. There are no rules. It's completely asymmetrical. One person is aware, the other person is not. And usually you're fighting from behind, you're behind the curve. And then you have to fight your way back to hopefully neutral and not get too hurt before you get to neutral, and so
basically ambush.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was the stuff that he was fascinated with. This one club I worked on, we had it was like a rooftop garden over a really busy street with a bunch of nightclubs. And so you could see on Friday, Saturday night, there's tons of people just, terracing all over the street. And you'd see interactions, and I could, the nights that I was up on the roof, watching, and you would watch everybody's like ambush predator bullshit, and excuse me, but you'd see, certain people like, how one guy would distract another guy so another guy could like steal his wallet, even if there wasn't violence, or like, just the interactions, different groups of folks, and like how they would, and he would be super into that stuff.
Right.
He would be super into that
diversions,
stuff.
Distractions.
Yeah. And like, and so that just, it again, teaching you to see and looking for that. And I learned so just like watching, hundreds of people in a night, different levels of inebriation, and like looking at how people are picking each other out as victims. Like you can see like, oh, that dude's too drunk. Like he's bumping on the wall, and then you see heads turn, right? And you see the heads turn and start going through the crowd, and then they see that like, wait till he gets to that alley or whatever else, and then boom,
right.
presentation and like seeing how other people pick up other people, how they pick you out as all that kind of stuff. He was super into all that stuff. But anyway, I just wanted to make wanted to make sure that people were aware of that he was not in an illusion. Like one of his favorite, God, what was the movie? Was it Rob Roy?
Oh yeah.
Was that?
Yeah.
Am I right, Ren?
Yeah.
The movie?
Yeah, the movie.
It was yes. And there was a sword fight at the end. It was a duel between Rob Roy and this other guy. But apparently they trained really hard for it. And there was... I can't remember. I'm hoping that's the right name. But there was a lot of like attacks, evasion, and just like in and out, effortless, no getting hit, in and out kind of stuff. And he was like, whoever did this choreography, right? Like he was really into how that was done. That was his baby. That was like how he worked on stuff, and that's what he wanted to put out, was people being able to do that, which is a far cry from, having a bunch of fake flowers that have sharpened stems on the end so you can throw them in somebody's face.
Right. Yeah.
That's like a very different, but just as expert in that. Right. So
take a look at that movie. I gotta get going too.
I gotta look at that. Okay. Well, any final thoughts before we wrap here?
Rob.
The Pendulum. The Pendulum was based off of dance. It was not based off of boxing. Want to put that out there. He had a bunch of people like, oh no, he took it from this. Give credit. Like no.
Right,
it was from dance.
You heard it here first, folks. We're setting the record straight.
Yep.
But yeah, this is great. Well, thank you all for joining us. I think one quote from Sonny that really kind of wraps up what we just talked about today was that Sonny said that there's no art in dying. The art is in the living. And so with that, I think that's a good reminder for being intentful and purposeful in what we practice, and being aware of ourselves and each other, and just try to be good people. So thanks for joining us. Thanks, everyone. And if you have any questions or comments, leave it in the comment section. And until then, we'll see you next week. All right.
Awesome.
See you later.
Thank you, folks.